we go.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. How you doing? My name is Gary Karp, and welcome to Chats About Life, the Universe, and Everything with a nod to Douglas Adams. I am, again, Gary Karp, and I am sitting here with the beautiful co-founder of the Group of One, Katie West. Tonight's show is going to be about judgment. We're going to be talking for about 16 shows about life, the universe, and everything. Maybe we'll go to Milliways and have a bite to eat. But right now, we're going to be talking about judgment. Now, originally, the show for today was going to be on paradoxes and paradigm shifts, I believe. But, Katie, you came to me in the middle of the week and you said that you wanted to change it to judgment. So we're going to do judgment. What is it about judgment that you wanted to talk? Why did your soul speak to you about this today?
Well, it's interesting. Good question, Gary. Since our last talk last week, a couple of conversations I'd had at work. Also, I saw a couple of television programs, and they were mentioning judgment, and judging people, and people feeling judged. And it sort of, the universe basically went, here you go, Kate, have loads of judgment coming from all different sources here. So for me, it just said, okay, all right, I'll talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay. It's strange that you said that, because after you contacted me and you said, let's talk about judgment, and I just rolled with the flow because I've known you for years now, and I know whatever plans we make, don't even try to hold you to them because they're going to change at a moment's notice. They could change in the middle of the show for all I know.
No expectations.
Exactly. However, I started to see posts about judgment and posts about being non-judgments and just little reminders of being judgmental towards ourselves and others and how that stops the growth process in us during the whole week after you told me that. So it's really interesting that you did change that. So I'm going to ask you straight up front, when you think of judging and judgmental thoughts and stuff, what does that mean to you? Does that help us in our quest to be more aware, or does that take us back?
Well, interesting, Gary. What I was going to say to you earlier, and I said I'll wait till the show, is when the universe provided me with this sign to go ahead with this discussion, I actually had to research judgment because for many, many years now, I've been working on being non-judgmental. And so, therefore, to judge others, which I don't anymore, but to judge people, I found I had to sort of work, as I said, research it to find out what it was. So what was your question? You just said to me then.
I'm really trying to get to the bottom line of why you wanted to speak about judgment, what judgment means to you, and do you think it helps us to be more aware when we judge, or do you think that it takes us away from our true and authentic selves?
Right, to judge someone. Okay, if I was to look at it from a judgmental perspective, let me think. Okay, I would say it's sometimes it can work in a person's favour. I'd say I probably wouldn't call it judgment. I'd probably call it being cautious. Perhaps it's someone's going on their feeling. They're doing what's feeling right for them, and if it's feeling right for them in that moment, to be judgmental at some level, it's clearly serving a purpose for that person.
Okay, now there's a difference between being cautious and listening to your gut instinct and being judgmental.
Right. Okay.
When we're talking about judgmental, and in the terms of, I believe, how we're going to discuss it for this show, it's judging yourself to be good or bad, judging yourself to be holy or sinful, judging yourself to be worthy or not worthy, looking at someone else and judging them to be worthy of your friendship or your time or your compassion, just based on the way they look or they act or their religious beliefs or their sexual orientation, or maybe even just the shirt they're wearing. I understand 100% what you mean about being cautious and listening to your gut instinct. If that
Yeah.
gut instinct is telling you, hey, that person is a little bit slimy, stay away from them, then yeah, you should do that. But I think when we talk about judgment here, we're talking about having the ability to say, yes, you're a good person, no, you're a bad person, because I do not like the way you dress, I do not like the way you think, I do not like the way you love, and these situations. So when you think like that, when I think like that, I know it's doing more harm than good for me, because I prefer to go for the opposite side of judgment, which is acceptance. Acceptance of
Yes.
everybody without putting definitions on them. And when you judge somebody, you're going to have to put a definition on them, and that definition is going to come from your point of view. And as we discussed a little bit last show, there is no one right way.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about judgment, do you think that judging someone, that ability to say, you were wrong and I don't like you because of blah, 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 is good for our awareness, or is it bad for our awareness?
Right. Again, it's like this. It's good and it's bad. Okay, because you know me, but I'm
Okay,
into the
Katie, I got to stop you there.
yeah.
You're sitting on the fence here. The people who are listening to the show right
They
now,
don't know me.
they want to know exactly, what
Right.
is this stuff with judging? A lot of people have heard that judging others is bad. Okay, that you shouldn't judge yourself and you shouldn't judge others. And if you talk to the metaphysical gurus out there and you read about the law of attraction, then you have to be in total positive mind and you have to be in total acceptance of everything that happens. So when you say it's good and it's bad, that sounds a little wishy-washy to me.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm trying to find the right words, Gary, because it's all going on in here. Just trying to get it out. Okay. All right then. Let me say from. Okay, I'm going to talk from. I know an awful lot of people judge me. Okay, I know that. I'm fully aware. I've had that all my life, and I'm even more fully aware of it the older I'm getting for some reason. And majority of the judgment that I receive is based on assumptions. Now, I feel that that's really linked. Assumptions are linked with people judging others. What I've come to experience is people make massive assumptions about me, about who I am, what I do, all that sort of thing, and without actually coming to me and talking to me, they make these assumptions. Almost come to this sort of realization, well, that must be true because they've thought about it so much or possibly spoken with others about it. And so together they've come up with this, what they believe I'm about, or what the group of one's about, or, whatever. So, but without actually coming to me and talking to me, I don't bite much. But, people don't come up and talk to me. So it's a lot of assumptions.
So how does that make you feel? I mean, I hate to sound like a psychiatrist, but when people make those judgments about you and the group of one, does that make you feel good about yourself? Does that make you stop and think, well, are they right? Am I this way?
Well, okay, how it makes me feel personally is, I would say, probably before I accepted who I was, and before I don't judge myself at all and I love myself unconditionally. Before that, I would have been upset. I know I would have done, because I have been in the past. And people have judged me, have not actually listened to me or not tried to understand me. They've just come to their own conclusions, add 2 and 2 and come up with 3. Without actually talking to me or finding out. They just think they know the answer, think they know me better than I do. But now, because I love myself unconditionally, I love other people unconditionally, and I sort of, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me, because how I see it now, the right people will come to me at the right time for them. and that's how it sort of works with me now. But that's
Okay.
what I was.
Now, I've seen a quote, one of my favorite quotes out there, that says, people are going to love you, people are going to hate you, and none of it is going to have to do with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? That leads also into judgment, because they are projecting, in my opinion, they're projecting their own feelings, their own beliefs, their own fears, whatever, onto you when they are judging you.
Yeah.
And what would you say to someone who is being judged and doesn't like it? What would you say to them to try and get them to just work with it and go with the flow? Would you say to try and talk to those people and engage the people who are judging them and judging them poorly in most cases or wrongly in most cases, to talk with them and find out about them? Or would you just say, hey, listen, that's who they are, let them be, it's not going to affect you in the long run?
I would actually go with what you said. That's who they are in their moment of now. Exactly as you said, let them be. We're all going through our own transition, whatever, we're all going through our own inner changes, in whatever way that is and however it comes out, expressed. So I would personally, I mean, it's what I do, I suppose. I allow people to just be themselves, and I don't get involved. I don't get involved with it. I focus more on empowering myself. As I said, if people want, but I'm not aggressive towards anybody. Even if somebody was being really hateful and being very aggressive or towards me, I can't be aggressive back to that person. If somebody was, got the wrong end of the stick about who I was and was offloading to me, see what I mean? I couldn't be horrible or aggressive to that person because, they're expressing themselves how they feel to at the moment.
It's interesting that you said that. Do you associate being aggressive with being judgmental? Do you think that when you're being judgmental, you're being aggressive to people and not being compassionate towards them?
I suppose that's just because that's been my experience. That's been my experience of bullies and things like that. So
okay. Now, you
yeah.
sent me a video this morning in anticipation for this show, where you sent it to me last night and I didn't get a chance to watch it to this morning, where this kid who's got a YouTube show, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the kid's YouTube show in a second.
Daniel, oh, fantastic. I thought he was a brilliant, lovely guy. Daniel.
It's a very good show, and wait, I just had it and I just lost it. There it is. It is a video by Daniel. Folks, bear with me. This is right off the cuff. We are very planned when we do this show. Anyway, as this is loading, we're trying to find the show and the video, the YouTube channel that you sent me. This kid did a social experiment, and I think he said he did it for 70 days.
Yeah, something like that.
On the channel is called Mr. Repzion. That's Repzion. Very good show. And it's from a kid who wants to break down the walls, from what I could see, because I've watched a couple of his other videos after watching the one that you showed me, and his whole channel is geared towards opening the eyes of others, usually through social experiments or in-your-face behavior. And the video that you sent me to watch was on judging people and being judgmental. He did a social experiment where for 70 days he wore earrings, or what he called
what they call it,
call them, but they were basically earrings for the mouth on the lower lip.
Hmm.
And he did this for every show to see what kind of response he would be given.
Yeah.
And over the 70 days, people who just were discovering him to fans of his channel who've been with him for years left him comments like, "You shouldn't wear earrings. You're a guy. You look ugly with those things in your mouth. This is wrong. This is sinful. How dare you do this? You look ugly with it. Why are you doing it?" Very judgmental things. And of course, the show that you sent me was the big reveal where he pulls the earrings off and he says, "Hey, you're on candid camera. This was all a social experiment, and you guys failed." And then he goes on a rant for about 7 minutes about how people were judging him and how it's wrong to judge. And the one thought that kept going through my head as I'm watching this kid was, he's being very judgmental.
Yes.
He was being more judgmental than I think of the people who were judging him. So I think that we get a little mixed messages when we start to be non-judgmental, when we start to say you shouldn't be judgmental on other people, and we start to get a little holier than thou and get into a situation where my dear mother would say, "We believe our shit don't stink."
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a situation where people who judge or says we shouldn't be judgmental then turn around and judge everyone for being judgmental? So they themselves are judging people.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, and what did you think of the video?
Why did I think of the video?
No, what did you think of the video?
Oh, sorry. Well, yes, I sort of enjoyed the experiment from the social experiment perspective, because he said, for me, I suppose what resonated with me was, he said in one breath that, you know, all his followers have been following him for years, were saying, yes, you know, people shouldn't judge, you know, I think they were talking about gay marriage and all this sort of thing, you know, people that were poo-pooing it without knowing the facts, you know, and understanding, you know, being compassionate and all that. But in the same breath, these same people, that's what he was saying, were telling him he looked ugly with those earrings. You know, well, actually judging him for what he looked like as opposed to who he was, and just accepting him for him. So I think for me, that's what I got from his video, how he was actually trying to basically say, you say one thing, but then you say another.
Right, but wasn't he judging those people by saying they were wrong? And there was a part of that video where he says, sometimes it's okay to be judgmental. It's okay to be judgmental if the guy is an asshole, if the guy is a douchebag. It's okay to be judgmental if the guy is a murderer.
Is that what he said?
How do you feel about that? Because we're talking about judgmental, and on a higher level, really big esoteric self-awareness level, we all want to be accepting of everyone and not judgmental, because love is love and people are people, and there's no one right way to get to the creator or God or however you define him to be, if you in fact do believe in the creator or God. But on the other hand, if we're sitting here and we're doing a show on judgmentalism because in some way we associated it to be highly aware not to be judgmental, and I could only assume that was what was going through your head when you came up with this topic, that helping people move past judgmental, being judging of themselves and of others, is a step on the road to awareness, then shouldn't that include the quote-unquote assholes and douchebags? Just because we don't like their behavior does not necessarily make them wrong.
Yeah, no, I can, Gary, my intention really isn't to move beyond judgmental, I suppose, is to understand it, as opposed to move beyond it. Because once something's understood, so naturally move beyond it anyway. Well, one can, I suppose. But with judgmental, I suppose, if someone judgmental can be, somebody can judge me in a negative way, or someone can judge me in a positive way. So somebody could judge me and think, oh, they don't like what I'm doing because perhaps I may do something in a completely different way to them, and because it's not the way they would do it, they judge me straight away and probably say, oh, that's the wrong way of doing it. And that's fine. Again, that's what they want to do. But I'm just giving an example. But for me, I see good, and because I see good and bad in everything, the good, somebody can judge something I'm doing and think, actually, that's a good way. I really like what how she's doing that, or what she's doing, or what she's saying, blah blah blah. And so they can make a judgment based coming from love, as opposed to coming from that unconditional love space, acceptance, as opposed to that conditional love space of, what am I trying to say? Can you understand what I'm trying to say?
Wouldn't you say that judgmental, as we were describing it there, with, you're ugly because of the earrings, or you're sinful because you want to marry, you're in love with the same sex, or you're sinful because you want to have an abortion, or you're bad because you smoke pot, or whatever it is, or you're an evil person because you beat your partner. And folks, I'm not endorsing beating your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or your spouse. My personal belief on that is that you are an ugly person, and I don't do it in my life. That's the way I choose to do that. My point is, don't most judgments come from fear? Because we, human beings, in my opinion, are extremely conceited. We want the world to be the way we are and the way we see it, because that's going to make us right, and everybody wants to be right. So judgmental behavior, whether we're judging ourselves or others, comes from a place of fear, because we're saying, I'm not good enough. The whole situation based around sin. And once you create sin, then you're talking about good and evil, and that's a judgment. And if you follow God's commandments, so to speak, then you're going to be good. If you don't, you're going to be sinful. But what you're really talking about is fear. You're talking about a person can come from a place of unconditional love. And if they're coming from a place of unconditional love, they wouldn't judge you in the first place. They would accept you, regardless of what you're doing. But they wouldn't judge. Judging comes from a place of fear.
Yes, fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Well, it's fear of the unknown. It's fear of something that's different. It's fear of being wrong, and fear of your identity being taken from you, in my opinion. Because you have been told all your life, this is the right way of being. This is the only way of being. This is the right way to God. This is the right way to love people. This is the right way to do your job, or whatever it is. And if you live in a town of 50 or 500 or 1,000 people, and all you see are carbon copies of yourself, and then all of a sudden you move to the big city, you move to London, or you move to New York, or you move to Paris, or Los Angeles, or Chicago, and you see people who look differently, who talk differently, who act differently than you do, your identity is going to be shaken, because you're going to see differences. And at that moment, you have two choices. As you say, you can come from a place of unconditional love and accept and embrace everything that's different, or you can judge those people and say, well, they're not doing it the way I am. I was raised by the greatest parents in the world, therefore I'm right. And come from a place of really is fear, because you're seeing something that's different, and all of a sudden you have to ask yourself, is everything I was taught, everything I believe in, correct? And if you do not have that acceptance that there is something you don't know, the knowing of which could change everything, then you're going to come from a place of fear and attack it. And the way we attack it is to say, you're wrong, you're sinful. That's, in my opinion, where the judgment comes from. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more here, and I'll throw it back to you, because I just want to get on to, okay, we know what judgment is, And really what we're talking about, and what this whole thing started out when it was just a germ of an idea, was talking about unconditional love. And unconditional love is the same thing as acceptance to me, being accepting of everything. So the key here now is, how could you share with someone? What would you share someone who wants to turn judgment into acceptance? What practical ways could you come up with to say, hey, this is what you can do to help you stop being so judgmental?
Okay. Well, for number one, I mean, I'm just going to use all the tools that all the tools that I use. I mean, I just accept what is. What is, and it's so whatever I see before me is just being what it is. Whoever's in front of me is just being who they are. And it's that saying, Gary, you said it, I think you said it last week, that something only has meaning when we give it meaning. Is that the saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Close enough, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of the same with people, that people, a person, you know, okay, I'm trying to put this into layman's terms. So when I meet somebody, straight away they are who they are. Now, the thing is, when I meet people, I see them as a child. I see the innocent. I connect with the innocent child straight away. I tend not to see their layers, although I know that they're quite possibly there. Straight away, I connect with that innocent, that unconditional love energy with the person, and so I don't see anything else. So I suppose that's probably something I'd sort of say to people, is try and connect with the child that is actually within each and every one of us.
Okay. Now, I know for those of us who are out there that do not have your unique perspective on life, because I know for me, and in full disclosure, I am an author and I am a coach, and I teach people how to use tools and strategies to eliminate stress and anxiety through the process of mindfulness, which is just being in the moment. This is the easiest way of explaining it. And while those things, if we could just say it, comes very easy and naturally to you and me, although there was a lot of heavy lifting that got me to this point. I mean, over 40 years of heavy lifting to get me to the point where I can just accept what is. And even at some times, I still do have a hard time accepting it, and I try to push it because I have certain expectations, which then lead to judgments. Okay? So if there are people out there who are listening, who are going to be watching this in archive, and they want to know really, they want to stop being judgmental. They want to live a life more of love and acceptance and not one of fear. Yes, you can look at the world as a child, and that does help. But a lot of things that really go to help you towards that would be to start to meditate, or just to deep breathe, or to pray more, because really it's all the same thing when you're talking about it. When you're trying to get to a more place of acceptance, it's to first be grateful for what you have. There was an article that you sent me right before we went on the air about the 3 reasons why people are judgmental. And the third reason in the article was that we're jealous, that people are envious because they see something in someone else that they want. And because they don't have it, they project bad judgments onto that person. If it's money, they project that either they were born that way, they married that way, they lied and cheated their way to the top. I mean, with money, it's the big thing. You could even see it in politics in the United States, and what has divided my country over the last 200 years or however long we've been here, and especially the last 10, it's called this class warfare, as people are saying, you have it and you didn't work for it. Meanwhile, I'm a working slob and I've got to take 3 jobs to pay the rent and blah, 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 blah. The first thing that you can do is really to be accepting, is to be thankful for what you have. You know, live with an attitude of gratitude. When you start doing that, you start appreciating what you have instead of what you don't have. Yeah. And when you focus on the things you don't have, that's going to make you jealous of others, and that's going to make you angry, and that's going to make you envious. And it's all that anger and envy, at least in my opinion, that leads you to being judgmental and leads you to really, and here's why judging is really a bad thing in my opinion, and then I'll ask you if you agree or not, because I realize I've been talking for a while. It's really doing more harm than good. It's eating yourself alive, because as long as you are looking at what you don't have instead of focusing on what you do, you're not allowing the blessings and the gifts of the universe to come to you, and you're not really living in love. You may think you are, but if you're sitting there and you're going, wow, I wish I had the BMW that's in my neighbor's car, or wow, I wish I had the girlfriend my best friend does, or the wife my best friend does, or why don't I take vacations every month, or whatever it is. You may be the most loving person, but there's a piece of you there that is still envious. There's a piece of you there that is still measuring yourself against someone else. And you don't have to measure yourself against anyone. This is not a contest. It's not he who dies with the most toys wins. Mm-hmm. That's something I think we really need to get past in order to move past judgmental behavior. Accept yourself, and that means being grateful for what you have instead of looking at what you don't. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I can understand. I can understand totally. I agree with you there. It is very much about appreciating what you have. I mean, I fully appreciate what I have. I'm totally grateful for, you know, my life right now, for everything, and everybody in my life right now. And for me, that, I mean, there's, when I, you know, if I was to write a list of all the things I'm grateful and appreciate in my life, I mean, there isn't any room to be anything else but appreciate and to be grateful. And something else you said earlier with regards to, you know, what could someone do to help them stop being so judgmental? And when you said about meditating and prayer, I thought straight away is to be more kind and more gentle to yourself as a person, you know, because, I mean, people talk about meditate. I think I said last week, I don't meditate. I have a lot of friends that do, and some people don't, and some people choose not to, you know, and that's absolutely fine, because we don't, you know, we don't all do that. But for myself, I'm just very gentle with myself. I treat myself kindly, and also what I found incredibly important is my self-talk. Is what I say to myself. You know, also what I say to other people, because I know that other people are reflections of myself. So what I say to someone else is what I say to myself. But I really focus on what I say to myself, because my words, what I'm telling myself, that there's, you know, I could be kind and nice to somebody here, but if I'm going back home and then being horrible to myself, saying, why did you do that to yourself? Why did you do it? Why didn't you do it? You know, I'm actually, I'm also almost, I suppose, what's the word? Counteracting. I don't know. I'm sort of putting out nice things here, but the truth, my truth, is not nice, because I'm not being nice to myself. I'm not being kind. I'm not being gentle. So it's almost like I'm not helping myself.
I love that you said that, because self-talk is the most important thing for mental, spiritual, and emotional health, in my opinion. It's what I teach in my practice, and I'm actually working on, my next book is going to deal with communication and self-talk as well, because the two most powerful words in the English language are I am. Because whatever you put after it, you're going to declare to the universe you are, and therefore you're going to manifest it and become it. So you have to be very careful with how you talk to yourself when you say, I am stupid, I am smart, I am a klutz, I am fluid, whatever it is. You have to watch the self-talk, not only with the I am, but exactly how you said with the why did I do that? How could I fall for that guy again? I can't believe I went out with this guy and he was dating someone. How stupid am I? Okay? And how many of us have done that? Well, not necessarily with a married guy, but you know what I mean. Okay? We all have moments where it's, I can't believe I did that. How stupid am I? And even if you don't say, I'm stupid, it's the intention that you're putting behind the, why did I do that? You know?
Yeah, it's the reaction. It's
exactly.
the reaction. Because, sorry to interrupt you there,
No,
but like you do with your sort of coaching, when I'm sort of talking to people, when I'm doing my therapies for treatments, I actually bring to their attention about the self-talk, because our self-talk is probably, I would say, is the most important, because it's that private conversation that we have with ourselves that nobody else listens to, and so it's and because our bodies, made up of 80% water or whatever. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Emoto.
yes.
But anyway, our bodies actually react to what our words, or as you said, the intentions. So our bodies are reacting to what we're telling ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just our bodies are reacting, but also other people are reacting to what's being happening, because it's cause and effect. It's like ripple effect. So it's about, for me, it's about being gentle. So perhaps, talking to the inner child, talking to one's own inner child, nurturing one's own inner child, allowing that child to come out and play, be a little bit more creative, that sort of thing, just being gentle with oneself.
The way I always put it when people talk to me, and even when they don't come as clients, I could be talking to friends, I could be talking to family, I can be talking to my girlfriend, whatever the situation is. And I always like to remind people, I always see people beating themselves up. If you spend 10 minutes on Facebook, if you have any friends or any communications on Facebook, you spend 10 minutes on Facebook, and you will come across somebody who is beating themselves up because of something that happened that day, or some reaction they had. And I always like to remind people that your thoughts are neither good nor bad. They're simply true for you at the moment that you're having them. So don't judge yourself too harshly and be hard on yourself. People think that in order to be spiritually aware and become like the Dalai Lama or whatever they're aspiring to, that they have to be perfect each and every moment, that they can't have any bad thought. So when they have a bad thought or a jealous thought or a evil thought, they sit there and immediately get down on themselves. Hey, you're human. That's not a bad thought. Wishing you had more money is not a bad thought. Wishing you were having sex with someone is not a bad thought. Okay? They're simply thoughts that you're having at the moment you're having them. So be gentle with yourself. Let the thought go. Just acknowledge it and let it go.
Also, Gary, what I was going to say, which sort of follows on from that, is when that thought comes in and letting it go. Sorry, excuse me. Is forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves. Again, it's not about other people. If excuse me, if I do something and I say to myself, "Oh, bum, I shouldn't have done that," always that effect. I forgive myself, and how I forgive myself is I say thank you, because I've become aware that I've sort of done something that hasn't made me feel good, and I've become aware of that, and so I sort of thank my awareness for bringing my awareness to that.
And that
you know what I mean? So I forgive myself and thank myself, instead of beating myself up for telling, instead of saying, oh, I did that wrong, I shouldn't have done that, which I probably would have done years ago, but now instead I thank myself. I say, thank you for reminding me. That's not how I wanted to do that.
And that is beautiful, and you're right, because forgiveness is a gift. Not only forgiving yourself, but forgiving the other person is also a gift that you give to yourself. And I never understood that until I went through my divorce. And I had many years of ugliness after my divorce until I was able to say, I forgive you, to my ex-wife. And all of a sudden, everything got released. She no longer controlled me the moment I forgave her. So forgiveness is something that you do for yourself. It doesn't mean that you think the other person is right. It simply is saying, I love myself enough to not let anyone control me. I love myself enough to allow myself to simply be with my feelings, whether those feelings are good or bad. So don't only forgive yourself when you do something that doesn't measure up to what you believe you are supposed to be doing, but also anyone who has wronged you, forgive them. And you don't have to do no AA 12-step program type of forgiveness where you have to call them up or go there and knock on the door and say, I forgive you for blah, 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 blah. You could just simply do it in your head. Exactly. Or write it down on a piece of paper. I forgive this person. I forgive that person. I forgive whatever. And really, and again, it's the intention behind it, really believe that you are forgiving them because it is a gift for yourself, because you want to let go and move on. And that's, I think, also a large part of judgment as well, is people holding on to the past. They don't want to move to the future or live in the now because they're scared of it. But in that past, whether it was good or bad, they know what's going on. So they can judge today by what happened yesterday, even though it may not be in their best interest.
Exactly. Going back to forgiveness there's also, I can't pronounce it. And if anybody who knows me is watching, they'll probably have a bit of a laugh. Hoponopono. Have you heard of it? Please don't let me say that again.
Please repeat that. Just once. Just once. Come on. Just once.
Oh, dear. Hop. Okay, it's H-O, little thing, O-P-O, N-O, N-O, I think. Hoponopono. I don't know. I
got it.
Anyway, doesn't matter. But that's it's Hawaiian actually. It's a Hawaiian forgiveness. It's
folks, please don't send email to me. I mean well. I just don't know what I don't know.
No. But it's actually a forgiveness tool. It's a way of basically saying to oneself, like the inner self-talk, or saying to yourself loudly, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you. By repeating those over and over again. So that's actually, telling yourself you love yourself, thank you, I'm sorry to oneself. And in the process of that, because we're all connected, at a sort of quantum level or whatever, when I say for example, you did something to me and I had to sort of forgive you for it or something like that, yeah? Or something was going on with you, I would say sorry to myself. And in the act of me saying sorry to myself, because we are one, you would be forgiven. Is this probably best to look it up? I'll put it on Group of One Facebook group.
Yes, please. Although
but there's a story about a guy, and it's a true story, how this doctor went into a mental health clinic in Hawaii, and there was a lot of patients there, and he used this technique, and over the course of quite a while, but over the course of a year, 2 years, gradually the patients left, and they closed down the mental hospital because there were no patients left because of this technique that they used. And there is, I didn't give it credit there in my explanation, but it's a fantastic tool to use. Hoponopono.
I'd like you to
That's not how you...
Once an episode now, I'm going to have you say that word. Just once. It makes my day. I'm happy. I'm happy right now watching you flutter over the word hoppa nappa lappa falapa seppa hoppa.
Oh, I can't. I don't know. I'm going to learn it now in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks, you got to come up with not only the pronunciation but the spelling and use it in a sentence. This is going to be like the National Spelling Bee.
Okay, I will. I'll write that down now.
Now we're getting to the bottom half of this hour. We're about 45 minutes in, and folks, I do want to thank all of you who have been with us and joining us today in this conversation. If you want to join us in the conversation, the chat room is open. Please type your questions into the chat room, and I will be more than happy to throw them up to Katie and I and see if we have any answers. We are talking again about judgment, judging of ourselves and judging of others, and why it's a good thing, why it's a bad thing, and basically just how we feel about it. And just to recap a little bit on what we've so far talked about is that when you are judging, you're coming from a place of fear or a place of pain or a place of anger and not coming from a place of unconditional love and acceptance. Sometimes it could be good to judge a person if that judgment is used in the context of a gut instinct, and to protect judgment is not coming from a place of saying something is good or bad in general, but is good or bad for yourself and is to keep you out of harm's way, then a judgment may be good for you. It could also be called an opinion at that point. That forgiveness is a wonderful tool to move past judgment, as is gratitude for what you already have and being very appreciative of what you do have in helping you not be jealous for someone else and be appreciative and not be judgmental towards other people. And really like to in the last 10 minutes, take on a really heavy subject here when it comes to judgmental, because most people get their judgments from what they believe is right. And I'm talking specifically now about organized religion. And for an organization, and it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Jewish or Muslim, and I'm mainly talking about the Western philosophies now, that are supposed to be rooted in love and acceptance, there are an awful lot of judgments. How do you weigh that? How do you marry those two things in your mind? And does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well, it makes sense. Okay, with regards to religions, the majority of the ones that I know about, okay, I'm not going to go on talking about groups and things. I can only speak sort of really how I see it. All beliefs are a very individual thing. We all have our own beliefs about things. And the thing is, it's, as they say, there are no two snowflakes the same. There are no two people the same. And so with regards to whether it's, this is how I see it, whether it's an individual or whether it's like a religious group or a group of someone else with their chosen beliefs, there are, everyone's right to believe what they believe is right for them to believe. God, did that make sense?
That made perfect sense. The problem I think happens, because I do agree with you, everybody is free to believe what they choose to believe about anything.
Yeah, okay? But everybody's right. Yeah.
I'm not going to say to anybody that they are wrong. I will say that I disagree with you, but I don't tell anyone that they're wrong. The challenge becomes when you say what you believe is right for everyone. Yes. And that is when judgments come in. And in my opinion, that is what Western religion has done. Western religion has taken a groupthink approach that says it is written in this book, or at least we believe it is written in this book, or we are taking what is written in this book and we are interpreting it for our own gain, and then we are saying that it is right for everyone. I mean, there is a church in the States called the Westboro Baptist Church. You may have heard from them. I don't know if they're a worldwide phenomenon or if they're just plaguing the United States. And they believe that homosexuality is a sin. It's against God, and it is causing the destruction of the United States, and it will cause the end of the world eventually. And they go, and this little church of 28 people from the same family go to military funerals and picket because they say that God is killing American soldiers to show his displeasure for homosexuality. And they are putting so much hate out there, so much divisiveness out there in their belief, because they're not just saying, I believe this, they're saying, I believe it, it is true, you are wrong, and they're judging everybody. In that situation, what do you do? Is religion a good thing in this situation?
Well, in that situation, what I would do, personally, I would totally, right, now hear me out, I would totally ignore them, okay? I would not feed them, give them any of my energy, because I know that what I focus on, I feed. So if I was to focus on that group of people, even give them a little bit of an observation, read into it a bit more, or anything, if I gave any focus to that story or that whatever's going on, that part, I would create that and make that, I would be actually feeding it. What one focuses on, one feeds. And the more you feed it, you make it get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so what I personally, and I do it because I do it with, I do it with what's going on the other side of the world, all the wars and things like that and fighting. And I withdraw all my energy from it so I can pour all that energy into peace, unconditional love, beauty, gratitude and all that. That's where all my energy goes into there. It doesn't, I don't feed that because I don't want that to live. Can you see what I mean? Yes. I want that to live, grow and flourish, and I want that to grow lovely and big. So that's what I would personally say to people. It's not nice. It's not a nice thing, but the thing is, no, it's not a nice thing. So if you don't want it to get any bigger, stop feeding it and feed what you do want to grow bigger.
Okay. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to open up the floor for you to say anything you want on the subject of judgments and being judgmental, to just wrap things up, and then we'll say goodbye to our viewers, and we'll see each other in 2 weeks. So the floor is yours, Miss West. What do you?
Well, I really don't. Actually, I really don't know what to say now because we have covered quite a bit, haven't we?
We actually ran the gambit. I think it was a wonderful show. I'm seeing right here that we're getting very much thank yous from a lot of our listeners. Charlie126 is saying wonderful show. I agree with you, Katie, on your thoughts on giving your energy to the hate mongers. So he agrees with you. And a couple of other people are wishing us well and are enjoying the show.
Oh, fantastic.
G77 is going back to talking about being forgiving to others, and she's saying that once she forgave what her, I'm not going to get, she's not getting into this, but what she says what her father did to her, her whole life turned around. I don't know what that means, but Karen, congratulations about you.
Oh,
so we're
fantastic.
having a really great show. We're starting to get feedback on this, and folks,
oh, it's only the second week.
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for being part of this show and for joining us here and being part of this conversation, because really, this is a chat between me and Katie, but it's also a chat between all of you, and we want to hear from you. So keep sending those messages coming to us. Keep it all going. My final thought on behavior, on judgmental, I'm sorry, behaviorism, I don't know what I'm talking about, on judgmenting, or being judgmental, I should say, is that really you have a choice in this life to come from one of two places. You can come from a place of love, or you can come from a place of fear. When you come from a place of love, and it is a true unconditional love, you will never judge yourself or anyone else, because you will understand that you are a divine creature and that you are holy in the spirit of God, whether you call it God, the creator, the universe, nature, Hecate, or whoever you decide that you are praying to or believe to. When you come from a place of fear, you are living in a scarcity paradigm. You are living in a place where you do not have enough, where it's me versus you, and no one is going to win there. And you're going to look at everybody as an enemy and not a friend, which means you're going to want to hate them, which means you're going to give a reason for it, which means you're going to judge. I want to thank you folks very much for joining myself and joining Katie this evening. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another show. I have no clue what it is, and I'm sure it'll probably change in 3 days when Katie gets a wild hair in her head. Until then, thanks for listening to us on Chats About Life, the Universe, and Everything, and have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Good night.